This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of having Virginia coming in from Santa Monica. She's going to talk about her new early stage venture that is called Shop Stage. We're going to talk about her journey through treatment and how friends and family can be more supportive than they have been before. So Virginia, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, let's talk about you on the personal front and things that you had to battle and were able to overcome, and some of the things that you saw that were frustrations that now you believe that you could solve, through this new platform.
Absolutely. So, I spent my career working in retail, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer in late 2018. So, my inspiration for Stage, the company that I've built, was based on my observations as a patient and also my passion for fashion and beauty. But, there are three things that really stood out to me along the way. One is the incredible amount of information a patient has to get up to speed on when they're newly diagnosed in order to make the best decision for themselves. That process can be very overwhelming. I was on a break from my corporate career, the first break I took in 20 years when this happened. And I had the time and, the resources to be able to, read about the disease, get second opinions, pull together the best information I could for myself. But I know that not everybody has that time, that luxury of time or the resources to do so. So, it became important for me to want to kind of pay that forward and give those nuggets of information and insight, back to the community. But, so that first observation was knowledge. The second is you really do need community to support you to get through this. And it's not just friends and family and loved ones that are around you. Of course, they're hugely critical. But if you don't have anybody in your inner circle that's been through this before, it's hard for them to know how to relate or how to support you. And, there really is no substitution for connecting with other survivors. And I was so fortunate to get connected with other women who had gone through this before, to impart helpful tips and advice on what to expect each steps of the journey. And, I was very fortunate, and I know that not everybody has a network they can tap into to give them that type of guidance. And then finally, the last piece was really just the fact that I ended up having to buy a lot of things, to support my journey: apparel, accessories, clean beauty, like non-toxic kitchen and cookware and drinkware, and all these, the list goes on that sort of supports the lifestyle. And it was a lot of work, and I shopped a lot of different places to curate the things that I need. So, these three main observations is what led me to want to create Stage, which is a one-stop shop for somebody that's going through breast cancer treatment.
So you'd think after, 20 plus years of the internet and, community building online, obviously there's Facebook groups, related to this. We've been donating and participating with Memorial Sloan Kettering and Equinox in, Cycle for Survival, which is more on the rare cancer side of it, for fundraising that goes 100% towards, research that supports the, those rare cancer, issues and symptoms. Did you kind of scan the landscape of everything out there and said, this just isn't working, or no one's really aggregated this, to the point where it became useful to you? Because I want entrepreneurs to understand that, hey, sometimes you come up with a great idea, but someone else is already doing it. Maybe you could just help them optimize it versus, hey, this warrants me to basically dedicate my life towards it.
Right. So when I was going through my journey, the throes, most of it was all consuming in 2019. I had multiple surgeries, chemo, and radiation. The only resources, I shopped from Amazon. I shopped from, all the same retailers that I normally would buy, lingerie or activewear or hair accessories from. I looked for the items that I thought I needed from those different platforms, but there was no curation and no content around what a patient would need or why. I mean, Amazon has thousands of products under breast cancer. So does, Etsy or even Walmart. But it was the lack of curation. And I ended up buying a lot of things I ended up returning. I mean, there's this thing called the big shed about 10 days after you take your first chemo infusion. And it's when your hair really starts to fall out. In a panic, I went online, and this is the perfect example. I went online and I spent $800 on hair accessories in one afternoon because I wanted to be prepared for that inevitable moment, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I ended up returning most of it, over time, but it's those types of things, I'm just looking to simplify the experience and the journey for other people, take the guesswork out of preparing for different phases of treatment. And when I was going through my journey, there was not anything on the market that was, putting things out there in that straightforward way. There are a couple of marketplaces that have launched within the same year as I have, but we all have a little different area of focus. Others are more focused on CPG type of remedy products. And I'm really approaching it from a full lifestyle perspective, and curating merchandise from mainstream brands in silhouettes that will work for someone that's going through this experience, but also survivor-led brands and other up-and-coming brands as well.
So, as you think through, thankfully, I haven't anyone, near and dear to me that's gone through this, but, are there kind of like either 4-week increments or 6-week or 8-week where you're like, hey, I can basically drop ship you like a kit, and here's everything that you're going to need for like the first X phase. And here's your size and here's what your size might become, due to weight loss and due to the, losing your hair and things of that nature. So as you kind of curate, at what level do you get to, or what level have you gotten to where somebody could say, all right, here's like a starter kit, sponsored by, Integrity Square sending this to one of our clients. As an example, where are you currently at and what's aspirational to where you want to get to?
Yeah. So today you can shop by treatment on our website. We have products curated under, surgery, chemo, and radiation. And then also gifts, naturally, because people want to buy gifts for patients. We also have a patient registry on our platform. So the patient can go in there and identify the things that they are going to need, and loved ones can support them with really practical gifts. But to answer your question, we have blog content on our website that speaks to, preparing for surgery, preparing for chemo, preparing for radiation, and, some of the side effects you might experience at each of these steps of the journey. I will tell you that every woman's body is different, and there are so many, not only are there different forms of breast cancer, they're in different stages of breast cancer, but there are different, when it comes to surgery, there are different procedures, and there's different steps of reconstruction. Some people choose not to get reconstruction. So it's not a one size fits all approach, but I can tell you for surgery, it's things like button front pajamas and zip front shirts and, button front shirts, zip front hoodies that you need to live in for a few weeks after that time, right? You're also going to need like seamless bras, and your needs in the bra category really evolve over time, depending on what surgery, like I said, and where, those processes can take up to, 18 months to 2 years, depending on what you have. So it really isn't a one size fits all, but when someone's preparing for chemo, we know that she's going to lose her lashes and brows. So, there's lash growth serums, there's, brow wigs, there's, turbans, because she's going to, fun, fashionable hats and things of that nature. There's port access tops, sweatshirts with special openings that make it easier for your medical team to access your veins or your port. And
I didn't think of that.
Yeah. And, you need, if you're doing cold capping, which is a strategy to try to preserve your hair during chemo, you need sulfate-free shampoos, and also your skin gets crazy dry during this time. And I found that most patients will tell you the most helpful products are, those that contain coconut oil and shea butter. So, there's the obvious things like those that I would call out for each category. And then with radiation, it's like loose fitting tops, and then also different skin salves, things like aloe vera. But you also have to know that it is a partnership with your physician. And especially when it comes to topical items or things like supplements, it really is a partnership with your doctor and getting their clearance on, whether a specific item is right for them. An example I always give is, a well-intending gift giver sent me turmeric supplements when I was going through my cancer treatment. And that person had no idea that, during chemotherapy, you cannot take something like turmeric because it could counteract your chemotherapy, what chemotherapy is trying to do. And so, anyway, where we are today is we've curated, a range of merchandise according to different phases of treatment. We do have some gift sets on the site, but we're not at the place where, we have a subscription service that tracks where you are in your treatment journey and, uses
Gotcha.
data.
So let me ask you a couple of business model questions, given a lot of the people listening here are, entrepreneurs seeking to build new businesses, maybe have a current job, but have an idea like you do and out of personal frustration and kind of say, I'm going to dedicate my life to solving that.
Yep.
You've got shopstage.co. Obviously you could do SEO and you can do, advertising in certain different areas. But if you were to say, here are some of like the top strategic partnerships that either know when people are going into get chemo, if there's some kind of, database or some kind of group that they join, if it's, one of the largest insurance companies that you say, hey, look, I'm going to do a partnership with Humana or United Healthcare and get on their portal. And they're basically now becoming your lead generator, if you want to use, for lack of a better business term. Obviously, these are people going through, probably the hardest journey of their life. How do you think about building those strategic partnerships? At what stage do you think you can do that? Obviously you got large companies that move at the pace that they need to move at because they're bureaucratic, and don't say, oh, Virginia, that's an awesome, idea. And we'd love to have you. Like that's, that hoop takes a while to get through. So how do you think about that from, building the business and opening those doors and other, interesting ways, whether it's a bra manufacturer that focuses on the space, whether it's a retailer that wants to maybe even have, a greater cause than what they're currently doing, which is the Equinox Cycle for Survival, story. So give us a little flavor into how you're thinking strategically about building, the platform out.
Yeah. So where we're at today is we have nonprofit partnerships with three organizations. So we give back a portion of proceeds, 5% of net sales, to organizations that support patients with things like fertility preservation, free integrative wellness therapies and support, and financial assistance for young survivors who are recuperating from the cost of bills. So those have been our strategic partners thus far in terms, at launch, in terms of, and in our launch year, in terms of getting the word out. However, and also, we launched with 40 brands on our platform and have since grown that supply by 50%. So we're now at 60 brands on our platform. So we've relied today so far on our nonprofit partners and our partner brands for helping us to spread the word, in addition to, social media influencers and our brand ambassadors. But getting to your point on like ways that we can drive access to, a customer pipeline at scale, where I see clearly, any partnerships we can strike with medical institutions. I want to be on the resource list that the social worker that's working in the cancer ward is, handing to patients. I want to be on the list of the nurse navigators that are
Right.
working breast surgeon's office, and the patient outreach programs, which can vary quite dramatically depending on the institution and how things are structured. So, we haven't solved for, admittedly, we haven't solved for, what's the unlock that's going to get us into thousands of institutions. Our nonprofit partners do have established relationship with over 40 institutions and are helping to open those doors for us today. But that will be important for us over time. But also remember, there are large nonprofits in the breast cancer space.
Like Susan G. Komen and that whole foundation. What's going on there lately?
Exactly. So like partnerships with the Breast Cancer Research Fund or breastcancer.org or the American Cancer Society, I think those are going to be important for us in the future as well.
So, when you take a look at what you're doing versus, somebody coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to build this business. Here's what my return on invested capital is going to be. Here's, what my EBITDA is going to be and, my growth trajectory, that matters less to you, on average than in other entrepreneurs, because, your mission here is not, here's my revenue and here's my growth and here's how we're going to do this. And that's kind of like the catch-all of what you're doing. So, when you think about doing the right thing and also doing it as a for-profit versus setting up like a 501c3, how do you think about that? And when you position this, or if you go out to investors, maybe it's 5% of revenue, or maybe it's, which could be a material part of your margin, right? Because you're running an e-commerce platform. So 5% could be 30% of your profits down the road. So how do you kind of toggle between, you might make an investment in my company. It's not going to get you the highest return, but it's going to get you a return commensurate with what I'm doing. How do you think about that?
Well, we think about our business model in a couple of different ways. Obviously, what's paying the bills right now is the margin that we make on products. And, yes, we are a for-profit company, but we are giving back to nonprofits that are making a difference. And it was really important to me to give back to organizations that directly support the patient journey. Because there's not enough money out there for those organizations that are on the ground servicing patients. I think that there's going to be bigger opportunity in the future, and to supplement the margin aspect of our business is in things like sponsored content and me partnering with the pharmaceutical companies of the world or other brands that are related, that are in the space, that want to tap into this audience and can share this message. And yes, we're in it for the long haul. Really in the beginning, I felt very passionately about giving these tips and advice and wisdom from women who have gone. So our blog, we have 40 articles on our blog that's all authored by survivors, myself and many others. And, it's very, very practical tips and for things that you need to know at different steps of the journey so that people can advocate for themselves. I felt very passionately about giving that service as establishing trust with the community by giving that service for free in the beginning. And, down the road, we could add things like coaching services.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. If we could just pause there for a second.
Sure.
You've got, I think it's called BetterHelp. Is a platform that launched, for, get your own, basically therapist on demand. Obviously it's been going on in the personal training side now. There's a group that just got a significant amount of money. We basically have like your own personal trainer, on call. You've got certified nutritionists on call. Obviously the whole telehealth industry is kind of blown up.
Yep.
Kind of we pushed 5 years or 10 years forward due to COVID. How about that as part of like the initial plan, or do you feel like you need a base, or is that how much of the universe of this you want to touch versus, hey, I want to basically provide people products to make their life better. And like the coaching part is the next phase. Cause a lot of people try and do everything right away. And that's probably a recipe for not getting anything done.
Right. So wanted to do breast cancer really well. I wanted to, and truly, this was born off the pain point of me having to hunt and peck for, and like make a lot of mistakes, buying the wrong things and gathering knowledge and information myself and doing the work myself. So I wanted to put forth something that would help simplify the journey for other people first and foremost. I will tell any patient, you are your own best advocate. You really need to, I chose to take advantage of nonprofits in my area for free integrative wellness therapies. I wanted all the woo-woo that I could get, because you're scared at this point in your life and you don't know how it's going to go. And so I proactively sought all those different things. Absolutely. I would love to be able to provide mental health coaching, and also just like a cancer coaching services, but I'd rather do that through partnership in the beginning or try it in a small way. I will say that all of our customer care reps are survivors. So anybody that writes in or calls and with a question, my team is at the ready, coming from a place of experience. And, we'll gather data points, through those interactions. But I think, for us, we're not, diving into those additional services just yet, but I definitely see those as growth opportunities in the future. And also, we're looking at partnering with other service-based businesses and things like meal delivery or on-demand beauty services,
One question I had for you, because I was actually in this consignment store the other day in New York City. I actually got a nice jacket, by the way. But there would seem to me, and my sister's always like giving away, clothing and sneakers that my niece and nephew kind of outgrow. Is there a big kind of like consignment, like an I beat this, I'm drop shipping all my stuff to stage, shop stage and, get this over to somebody else and, whether they get money back or they get a gift card or they get a thank you note or they get their name on a plaque or something? Because it seems to me like if you get everything you send someone and I can send it back to you, it's almost like I kick this, like take it back.
Yes, you're exactly right. So first of all, getting rid of those items it sort of represents a milestone in a patient's journey or healing, right?
Sure.
So we are definitely in talks with peer-to-peer resale platforms. It's absolutely something that I intend to offer to my consumer, especially when we get to things like wigs that can be $2,000 at a pop for a real human hair wig. I mean, it's a lot of people don't realize the out-of-pocket costs that come with the cancer journey. And it's, not only is it travel and accommodations if you're going to get care out of your home market, but it's all these things you end up buying for yourself to get through the experience. So absolutely, we will be adding peer-to-peer resale. We'll have to it doesn't make sense to add it till we hit a certain point in our volume. And we're just 4 months in, but it's absolutely on my roadmap for this year.
Great. So in closing here, if you have any business quotes or life quotes you want to share with us, we keep an active quote library, and then finish up by giving everyone the website and how to reach you.
Great. So I think one of my favorite quotes is every problem is a gift and without problems, we would not grow, from Tony Robbins. So I like to take that quote into my day every day. And we're so early in our business. We're learning so much every day. And, just trying to take those nuggets of wisdom and do things differently. And so, that's what I would say.
I like that one. And then the website and how to reach you.
We are shopstage.co. That is our URL, and that's also our Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. We'll love the cause that you're pursuing. Keep fine tuning it. I'm sure there's, zigs and zags in every startup because we've been a part of so many. And, your pursuits will affect a lot of people. And, people like you are what helps change the world. So you're officially part of the Halo sector, Virginia, and I'll see you for pickleball.
Thank you so much. Sounds
awesome.
great.
Good to see you.